All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for being here at the end of the day. It must be a super busy day with a lot of walking distance and a lot of exciting news. I'm great seeing you here. I'm Valerio Frediani. I'm Group Product Manager for Microsoft Cloud for Manufacturing Engineering team. Today, I'm excited to share about our latest announcement in public preview. Today, we are releasing Manufacturing Data Solutions and the Factory Operations Agent. And we will spend a little bit of time together to explain what problem space we are addressing, how we are doing, why we are doing, which customer stories we have, a small demo, and then we will dive into a little bit the technical components that are enabling, or the key components that are enabling these solutions. So there's a lot of ground to cover, so let's get us started. We are part of an engineering organization named Microsoft Cloud for Industry, and what we are here to build is an augmentation layer on top of the horizontal platforms. So horizontal platforms are things that you are very familiar with, be it Microsoft Fabric for analytics, be it Azure AI for AI workloads, you name it. What we are here doing is creating by industry an augmentation layer that simplifies the life of our customers in order to get the most of the value add of their investments in the horizontal platforms. So we're identifying what are hero use cases, opportunities. We create an IP on top of that. We package. And by doing so, we work very closely with the partner ecosystem. Every industry is an ecosystem play. And so we work from the ground up with partners in order to plug them on top of these motions on top of our horizontal platform. So our value is industry augmentation on top of horizontal platform. Speaking about what are the problem space that we are addressing, what are the use cases, we've been focusing on something that is a common pattern for manufacturing operations at a minimum. So what we are seeing here is that customers struggle to get the value out of digital investments on top of manufacturing operation landscape because of essentially the good old data silo problem that everybody knows about in this room for sure. In manufacturing is peculiarly problematic because data silos are across systems, are across edge and cloud, are across OT and IT, different type of workloads. And there is no a coherent semantic model on top of it, nor specific interoperability patterns that helps unify these foundations. What is the result of that? The result is that it is very difficult to unlock and to get the value of AI investment on top of this fragmented data state. The inability to get that value essentially slows down the transformation of organizations. And we have seen that many customers, even they are able to unlock with a specific lighthouse factory approach, where they innovate in one single factory. As an example, they're struggling to bring this goodness to other factories, because yet again, there is a lot of work, legwork and fundamental work to be done yet again. So in order to address this, we are taking 3 key steps. The first is we're working with the partner ecosystem in order to bring a unified data plane, and that being that Microsoft Fabric. So we are helping to bring data in this unified plane for analytics, real-time, and operational data. And the second thing is we're bringing an industry augmentation layer, meaning that we're bringing industry data model and ontologies that help unify this scattered landscape in one single place. By doing so, we are unlocking broader analytical landscape, quicker time to value for broader analytics, but specifically, we have an opportunity to democratize insights by plugging a reasoning engine that grounded on the data is able to offer insights to the business personas that needs these insights to run operation intelligently with the aid of AI. So we are building this, all of this, and now I would love to show it how it looks like in real life by rolling a demo that we have created, that Avanade and Accenture created with us with our first engagement of our private preview customers, and we'll show in a moment. Okay, so what you see here is now I am a factory operations manager, okay, and I'm trying to understand what are the reason? I'm trying to investigate the reason of a drop in yield. This is a traditional operational dashboard that you can see. And I can see in the top left that we have been, during this week, a significant drop in yield. Yield is a very important metric for manufacturing. And now, and today is May 7th. So I'm trying to understand what happened during the week to try to resolve and pinpoint the issue. And I'm trying to do that not only with traditional tools like analytics, but also using this factory agent that is surfaced through Copilot Studio in this application. Now, in order to address this, I want first to understand what is the breakdown of this yield. I will use a little aid here instead of typing, and asking what is the yield for all lines on May 5th. So this is important for me to understand whether this is a global problem or is specific for some production lines that are having this problem. And here I'm seeing that there are a couple of lines that are more impacted than others. The next things I want to check is what are the list of production events and having their category on the very same day. Production event is important for me, and grouping them by category is also important to understand what is the macro problem I should address first. Because many things can happen in a factory, and you can understand that in this abundance of data, it's important to focus the attention on the right things fast. So here I see two categories that pop up. The first one is production control. There are a lot of issues with the machine temperature. I know there might be related to human. But there is another one that is production interruption. There are a set of production interruptions that caught my eye and probably are related to some equipment behavior. So here, I want to understand a little bit better what are these production interruption events. So why I'm doing that? Because I want to make sure that I can give them to my engineering department to look after, okay? Because I know that this may be related to some specific issues with the equipment. You see here, there are a lot of these production interruptions that have been listed here and summarized. I probably want to transfer them and email to my colleague and asking a tabular format. So I'm asking a simplified view to have these things, and I will email to my colleague to look after, okay? Now, I want to go back to what I just said before, and I explained that there were a lot of issues here on production control. Production control is where humans, specifically operators, are dealing with the equipment setup. So here I want to understand and troubleshoot and understand if there are some human-related problems. So the first thing I will do is asking which crew worked on that specific equipment that we see have been problematic on that very day. I want to understand, I want to follow our reasoning whether there is a human problem here. So QD. Now, to understand if this is a local or a global problem, I want to check, whether there is I want to compare the productivity of this crew with another within the entire set of May. I want to understand if there is something behind, is it one specific point in time or there is a problem with the crew. Hence, I'm asking to compare two different crews here and understand the productivity. And what I can see here from this summary, that indeed, their crew C production has been significantly higher than crew D. So probably there is a problem with crew D. Now, in order to mitigate this, I probably need to set up some additional training, reconfigure the schedule of the shift, many opportunities. I want to look a little bit ahead in the future and check which distinct orders this crew is going to work on. In this way, I can act in time, reschedule to different crews, different lines, and here you go, you see that we have a list of orders. All right, with this, we conclude our demo, and let's stop for a moment, let's step back and let's see what we've just analyzed. So what we have been seeing here is a industry-specific conversational interface that helps business users to speak business language on top of the data that the manufacturing data state is bringing up. With this, we believe that customer will be able to improve yield, reduce scrap, we'll be able to drive a lot of efficiency in the system because of this democratization of insights. The ability to speak to your data, to ask specific questions and get reliable and accurate answer back is going to transform the industry. And we know that this can be of immense value to partners as well, because partners can bring this skill and create intelligent application on top of it. At this moment, we have been seeing a demo use case, and we are seeing that customers go fancy with these capabilities because they can literally reinvent the process of the way they work. So partners can bring this skill, augment intelligent application, bring other skills, and blend them to rich canvas for our customers to thrive. During the private preview, we have been working with hero partners and customers, being Avanade, Sight Machine, Accenture, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗻, and we have a few customer stories we are going to speak in a moment. Now, let's go back and see analytically what has been the flow that we've been seeing so far. Let's start from the left-hand side. Manufacturing is a fracture, the manufacturing reality is a fractured data state with a lot of systems, be it PLC systems, MES systems, manufacturing execution system, quality maintenance systems. The first thing is we're helping bring in this data to Fabric. We do that by a means of specialized connectors, either 1P from our investment at Microsoft and 3P with our partners. As an example, we use Azure IoT operation, that by the way is GA today, congratulations to the team, to bring this data into Fabric, specifically through OPC UA. We're working also with 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗻 to bring manufacturing edge data into Fabric, or Sight Machine with their Factory Connect, and many more to come. The second step, once data is on Fabric, we augment that with this concept of industry ontology. So we bake industry ontology on the platform itself, so that is easy to make sense of that data, and that sits on Fabric. So that, and this is the third step in the image here, we have this reasoning engine on top of Azure AI that is this capability that we've baked in this template, and in this agent, and is able to give this ability to reason on top of the data, so that a number of intelligent applications can be built on top of it. We've seen many, many instances during the private preview and more to come. In this way, you see that there is a composable partner solution behind that, because help to reach in the value chain of this data movement step by step with specific capabilities. Rich set of application, these are few of the categories we've been seeing so far. And we know that this is just the beginning of the story. One hero use case is root cause analysis. You have seen a glimpse on root cause analysis in the demo before. This is super important. Customers are able to address direct value on utilization of the equipment by pinpointing root cause analysis faster. That's why most of the customers are starting there. That is where the value is very easily articulated. But also worker skilling as an example. With this new generation of factory workers that are coming in, with the complexity of these siloed applications and the complexity of these legacy systems, trying to understand what is happening in the factory is not easy. An interface like this could completely transform the onboarding and the efficiency of these factory workers. Waste reduction, that is going to be a companion app, the best companion app for lean managers that are continuously looking at improvement opportunities to improve the efficiency of the factory. So many different use cases. What we are seeing is just the beginning, and we see that partners are building on top of that. These are some of the customer examples that we've been working with, and there are more to come in the next weeks and months. So Schaeffler is a global leader in motion technology, and is partnering with Avanade to equip the machine operator to have contextualized insights in their job to be done. In this way, these operators have contextual information, can address issues easier, quicker, they can access information, and they are overall more productive in doing their daily job by having this aided assistance. The second one is Bridgestone. Bridgestone is looking here to pinpoint a specific optimization improvement for a specific step in their production line. So, and here they are empowering machine maintenance supervisor, manufacturing engineers in a factory to drive a faster root cause analysis or a faster identification of these production losses. These production losses requires to navigate around a diverse and significant data set, and they normally take several hours to get to pinpoint a specific issue. And with this tool, they aim to aid and to speed up this process significantly. These, by the way, are just two examples of a richer roadmap of use cases that we are working with them in order to bring at scale across the different factories. All right. Now, with this, what we've been seeing, we are creating industry augmentation on top of the horizontal platform. We are addressing the problem of disconnected data silos, and we are creating a semantic layer and an ontology on top of it. And we're seeing how partners are accruing to this value on top of the platform of Fabric and Azure AI, and how customers are using. Now, let's switch gears and go into the key components of the solution that we are announcing in public preview. And these are three components. The first one is what you see on the left-hand side, is Solution Center and our Azure ERP, so the ability to discover, deploy, and lifecycle such application. The second one is Manufacturing Data Solution in Fabric, and is this layer on top of Fabric with the industry ontologies on top of it. The third one is this Factory Operation Agent in Azure AI. So let's move with the first one. So solution.microsoft.com is our one-stop shop to discover all this goodness that we are publishing here and more to come, where customers and partners can identify the solution, can provision them, can deploy, manage the lifecycle of the deployment itself. And this is particularly important because as you see this composite solution that have Fabric, that have Azure, and in the future we'll have other components, having one-stop shop to deploy across the different clouds, quote unquote, is very, very important and very helpful. The second component is under the cover, we have a specialized Azure resource provider that essentially allows to create a managed resource group in the customer Azure subscription and to manage the life cycle of the solution in the customer tenancy. So this means that this is a solution that entirely lives in the customer subscriptions, in the customer tenancy, and we are able to collect telemetry in order to maintain the status and the health of the operations. So minimal footprint for the IT organization to maintain such solution and maximum return out of it. Now, let's zoom out and moving to the second step, that is this manufacturing data solution in Fabric. So this is a high simplification of what I just told you before, but let me go once again. Industry data, so we have these industry data sources that we need to connect and we need to link that data into Fabric. And we do that through the means of specialized connectors led by partners or 1P. Now I want to focus on what happens in Fabric. In Fabric, when the data is connected and arrives, is in what we say the custom data models, is whatever data model the source system provides, whatever. What we need next is the ability to map and transform the data and eventually transform the data so that it's adherent to specific industry standards. At this moment, we are starting with one, is ISA 95, and there will be many more to come to cover both the operational aspects of the equation to the enterprise aspects of the equation. Now, ISA 95 is being an industry standard that's been developed by Industrial Society of Automation and is able to cover the hero aspects of manufacturing operation, being manufacturing execution, maintenance, quality. With these things, we're able to model any reality of a customer, be it a consumer good food manufacturing to a steel manufacturer to a pharma batch manufacturing. You can cover a high degree of different realities in manufacturing, and you can model all the operations. That's why it's so foundational for us to capture all these nuances. Once data is in this standardized model, we can do two things. One, we can simplify and streamline analytics, because now there is a single way of looking at the world and accelerate the realization of the broader analytic aspects. And secondly, we can have these intelligent agents that ground their execution on top of the data and the customer with a specific semantic notion. This is foundational to get the goodness that we've been shown before. And this brings me to the last the last is this factory operation agent in Azure AI. So what we've seen before is this natural language interface that brings three macro capabilities at this moment. Ability to query natural language interface. So in natural language means with the business domain language. The second is the ability to summarize answer back to make them adaptable to the specific context. And we have some conversational experiences because sometimes when you have this back and forth of question, you want to pinpoint questions down the road. We allow customers and partners to drive a set of configurations that here we are calling out from a high-level perspective. So the ability to create aliases. So the ability to that is very important for the disambiguation. I will show in a moment. Extend instructions. Instructions are super important. There is a flexible instruction level that can be extended. Extended entities, and integrating collaboration and in apps and collaboration. This slide here is showing a lot of different questions, and these are like the categories of questions that we're hearing out of our customers' engagement. Question about downtime, scrap reason, energy efficiency, you name it. There are a lot of category of questions that are being asked and much more to come. Because this thing is going to change the interaction pattern within these business users and the data landscape. So we acknowledge we are at the beginning of this story here. Now, I want to take a step deeper and explain what we're actually doing here and why we're doing. Because we've seen a lot of copilots, okay? And it's important to understand the difference between copilots that are used for creative application when you need to do summarization and other kind of text analysis, to copilots and agents that needs to drive skills in order to have reasoning on specific domain-specific action on structured data. We are in the second case here. Because can you imagine a factory operation manager needs to have a good understanding of the health of the operation in order to take critical decision. You need to have good degree of accuracy and repeatability and reliability of this answer. So the industry term of hallucination is not really welcome here in this space. So this is a specific, a generic question. What was the yield for XMPL products in February 2023 in bread plus 7? I don't really understand what exactly means behind the story, but let's break down this question a little bit. The first thing, when we get a question like this, there are oftentimes questions in business terms are related to specific KPIs, okay, or metrics that we need to go and check. So the first thing is yield, I said is a very common industry term, but there is not necessarily, maybe yield is kind of simple, but there are KPIs that are well known, but the formula how to get to those KPIs is not agreed and common across industries and companies. So we give the ability through extensible prompt instruction to define such KPIs in natural language. This is super powerful because you have a cascading set of instruction where you can define exactly what is your definition of a specific KPI. The second thing is the disambiguation. I touched based on that briefly before. So disambiguation is XMPL products doesn't mean anything to me, right? But XMPL products is a category of products. For this is extra moist pound loaf. So this is a bakery scenario, and that is what that means. So what we are helping here is as data comes into the platform, we are helping the vectorization process by adding these terms. So that when business users speak their own business language, we are able to understand, okay, this is a material. The other aspect is the temporal, and we call it the graph traversal. So in order to have this consistent state and be able to answer these questions, we're creating a notion of the semantic metadata of the data that we're having in Fabric, and that is temporal in nature. Think about manufacturing production, people working on specific equipment lines, materials flowing in a given moment, in a given time, even how equipments are assembled are changing over time, right? So it's a time dimension in nature. So we need to reconstruct this graph of relationship over time so that when we get a question that is specific for a time window, we're able to reconstruct that context and we're able to reason on that context. This is super important in order to be efficient, to be effective here. And the last one is the relationship. This is about yield. This question is about yield, so how much material we have produced. Breadblast is an equipment. So what is the relation between a material and equipment? These are implicit relationships that are part of the ontology that we're able to traverse. And understanding this implicit relationship is fundamental to be effective in the query generation that happens under the cover. Okay? So these are few of the capabilities we have baked in this agent for factory operation agent so that you as a customer, so as a partner, doesn't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And in this way, because data is grounded on Fabric, we're able to be effectively driving this innovation with our customers. And this concludes this three-step view, the simplicity to discover and deploy the solution, the ability to have unified data foundation in Fabric and the ontologies on top of it, and a reasoning engine on top of it that is able to democratize the access to insights. This is what we're doing here and now with this solution. With this, and this is the last complex slide, and we can have a good set of Q&A afterwards. This is the architecture that we are releasing at public preview, okay? So here, I'm going again a little bit through the flow. It's the third time, so bear with me. So we start with the industry data sources. We have a set of partner connectors, Fabric connectors, Azure IoT operation connectors that essentially creates pipes to bring this data into Fabric. Once data is Fabric, we need to apply this layer of mapping and transformation that is important and is complex, and we acknowledge that. That's why we're plugging partner solution on top of it to make it simpler, and to make it simpler and to create know-how and expertise in order to do that. Once this data is transformed in this medallion architecture, comes in the industry data models with ISA 95, that is our refined layer. The refined layer is where we have this Azure AI pipeline that we've baked and templatized that reason on top of such data and is able to crack the code of those complex business questions to drive exploratory analysis, root cause analysis, you name it. You see that on the right-hand side, there are the ability of partners to create partners, copilots, and agents and experiences. By plugging Copilot Studio, we've seen before the demo of Avanade, is using Copilot Studio to get the benefit of this and to create the richness of the interaction patterns. We have apps that are creating on the data layer. So there are partner apps that are creating data apps that reason for those analytical scenarios. And to conclude this here, you see on the top left, we have this Azure Solution Center RP that is the way to deploy this goodness in the customer tenants. This is an example, as I showed before. This is the solution that Avanade brought to the market. And this is Manufacturing Copilot. They're using that to transform the operation of many customers and creating differentiated templates to address specific use cases about production scheduling, quality control, and many more. The demo that we have seen before is about this solution. So with this, I want to call out, before opening up for questions, I want to call out 4 call to action. First of all, go and get to Cloud for Manufacturing and Cloud for Industries. You will be able to see the broad set of activities we're doing for industries across our partner ecosystem, directly with the products that we have out there. Again, Azure IoT Operation is GA today, and this is super important. The second one is go to Solution Center. Solution Center will enable you to discover the solution, deploy them, and get started with that. The last one is the learning. So there's a full set of MS Learn documentation that helps you to take these things to reality, and is quite deep and will help kick off a lot of partners, a lot of customers to start rolling with this. And of course, we are the expert meetup. So we welcome you at any time to go and address any questions. So with this, hopefully this has been helpful. I'm happy to take some questions here, if there are any questions, or to go deeper in any area. By the way, If there are any questions here, we have a mic there on the center of the stage, and we're also happy to take questions offline afterwards. Please.
And I apologize, I was a little bit late attending.
No problem.
So you're saying that for a lot of the KPI data that you need to ingest for a Copilot to understand our manufacturing process or processes, that we need to create some templates. These templates, and I missed this, is that in a form of a flat file or a table in a database, or is that a product that you're offering?
Thank you. Yeah. So the question is about how to create, in order to create views and computation on top of KPIs for manufacturing, are we providing templates, or what is the work to be done in order to templatize these KPIs? So in order to get to the KPIs, we need first to do a groundwork on the base entities and relationships of the data. So as we get data about productivity, production orders, production lots, materials, you name it, they need to be linked, and that's why I'm showing these slides about pattern mapping and transformation. There is a foundational mapping effort that needs to be done in order to map to these canonical entities and relationship that we are baking in the platform using industry standards. That is the first step that helps homogenize the data and uniform the data. Once data is in such standards, we are baking a set of instructions that are out of the box that are able to compute a large set of KPIs, okay? And we do that by understanding the concept of the hierarchy of productivity, the hierarchy of quality, availability, and so on and so forth. However, these are extensible. This means that customer and partners can create new instructions. Instructions are text-based instructions that are able to extend, augment, or change the base formula behind these things. So this is the way we're enabling this conversational interface to happen. Hopefully this addresses your question.
Can that be done in natural language?
The mapping aspect, no. There are different tools. Sight Machine as Factory Transform is a low-code tool where you can literally do advanced transformation. We're offering base Fabric capabilities, so you can run through notebooks, Azure data pipelines in Fabric. So there are different ways. That is not yet in natural language. The reasoning on top of is through natural language, is where you define and extend this instruction with quote-unquote custom instruction. That is the natural language aspect of it. Please.
In the front end, can your Power App natively connect to the Fabric without using the Dataverse stuff? Because there are two different systems, right?
Yep.
Office 365 versus Azure.
Yep. So the question is about if the Power App can connect directly to Fabric, and in which means. So at this point in time, we didn't create a specialized connector specific for Power Apps. So whatever means you have to use a Power Apps on top of Fabric data, that is the way you can use Power App on top of this, okay? So it's docking on the standard integration between Power Apps and Fabric. And if you have a specific question about exactly how to do that and what is the most efficient way to do that, we can take it offline and discuss with the specific product teams. You mean with the Azure ecosystem or with the Fabric ecosystem?
The Azure ecosystem with the Power.
Yeah.
Power
so there is the Power Platform. The area that is I would like to point and focus the attention is Copilot Studio. So Copilot Studio is the canvas that essentially blends together the Power world with connectors into things, connectors in such things like Fabric. So you can have Copilot Studio reasoning on data grounded in Fabric, residing in Fabric, and a number of different skills that third party can bring on. So Copilot Studio is where you actually do that blending happening, and that is for Copilot experiences. So that is where I will suggest to focus on. Other questions? I'm sorry, with the lights I'm not able to see. Great. So anyway, we're happy to stay here and address other questions offline. Please visit us to our booth, and thank you very much for attending this session at the end of the day, and see you very soon. Thank you.